I am lucky enough to have consulted for companies who do hundreds and hundreds of millions a year in revenue, who also have millions of customers as well. And one of the most interesting things about this is that because I'm helping them with behavioral science, persuasion, and psychology, I actually get to see millions of decisions that are being made, and some decisions are completely illogical. And when you get to see that number of decisions and actual trends, you start to realize that a lot of things that are taught to us in marketing and taught to us about human psychology when it comes to selling to people is actually completely wrong. So in this video today, I'm going to show you 3 truths that I think will help you outsell your competitors because it deals with actual human psychology. Now, the first truth, and I hear this one all the time, is that people have a tendency to make decisions emotionally and then they justify it with logic afterwards. This is called post-decision rationalization, and it's absolutely true. But when I said that people make decisions emotionally and justify with logic, I bet you actually nodded your head because you've heard it so many times. But I think the issue is that there is a difference between hearing this and actually understanding this. So for instance, I have been in quite a few meetings now with executives, with directors, with CEOs of companies where I will say, hey, I think you've made a lot of decisions very logically here. But humans actually have a tendency to work emotionally and then justify with logic afterwards. And when I say that, you can almost guarantee in any of these meetings that everyone in their room will nod their head like this because they all agree with me. Yet 5 minutes later, they will be proposing some sort of plan to me, which is based purely on logic. So they hear the words, but they don't truly understand this. So to paint this even more, picture this story. A man was on the way to a supermarket to buy just a single item, just a loaf of bread. But on the way to the supermarket, he stopped off at this tech store where it's got TVs, it's got Xboxes, it's got sound bars, kitchen equipment, fridges and things like this. We have a Currys in the UK. And when he was on the way to the store, he stopped off at this tech store. He had a little look around it and he saw this TV. And this TV had the most amazing color. He knew in his head that his old smaller TV was quite old now and would probably break soon. And he could see that the price on this TV was actually quite a good price at the moment. So he bought the TV, then he left the store, drove all the way home to his partner and says, hey, I bought a brand new TV. It was a great deal. And, I think our TV is probably going to break soon. And so I've bought this new TV instead because I don't know when this next deal is going to be on. Boom, right? Forgot all about the shopping. So this on the surface looks like a very logical decision, but actually what happens when you break down the behavioral science and the psychology behind this decision, it's a very different story. So when this man was driving to the supermarket and he stopped at this store, he actually stopped at this store because he saw a big banner on the window saying that there was discounts on TVs inside. So the big colorful banners got him into the store straight away. And when he went over and looked at the TV, he pictured what that TV would look like in his house. And he knew his Xbox games would look much better on this TV because it's going to be 4K, it's going to have beautiful colors, and he could just imagine just playing them. And then he also rationalized to himself that actually buying this TV would probably save him money in the long run because rather than wanting to go out all the time or even wanting to go to the cinema, now he's got a big, beautiful TV at home and he could just play on this TV instead, play his Xbox, watch films with his girlfriend or whatnot. And then after he thought about that and it made him feel good inside and made him feel like he was making a good decision, he looked at the pricing of this TV and saw that the TV was actually on discount and that the pricing was going to end today. And if he didn't make this decision today, it might be another 6 months before a deal like this comes up. So he's going to miss his opportunity. And then the store assistant comes over to the guy and he says, hey, you know what? This is one of our last TVs in stock. And so this guy eventually caves. He goes home. He's bought the TV by this point and he talks to his partner. And the perfectly logical conversation that he has with his partner is that, you know what? This TV, it was a good price at the moment and, ours is failing. So it seems seem like the right thing to do. But really, when you actually look at the sales psychology, all of these emotions happened in this. This might sound like a random far-fetched scenario, but believe it or not, that scenario was actually me about 8 years ago. That is exactly how I bought a TV. And in my head at the time, I rationalized it as a good decision. But truthfully, what happened was there was lots of different biases going on. I had many different feelings and emotions towards this TV. And eventually I just caved and bought it. So the reason I'm telling you this story is because I think we're in a world at the moment where we have a lot of data on things. And when we have a lot of data on things, we have a tendency to rely purely on that data because logical and rational decisions come out of that data. But truthfully, how humans work is we aren't really logical or rational. We will feel some sort of emotion and then we will make a decision on this. And so the companies who do the most sales with the highest converted funnels, with the highest converted products and literally do hundreds of millions per year, understand deep down that people are driven generally by emotion. And so they appeal to that emotion, often just very subtly as well. It's never just overt, but it's the reason why you go in a tech shop and the TVs are actually switched on, showing trailers of movies and things like this, and the TV looks so crisp. It's because it gets that human emotion going, including for people like me who A, understand behavioral psychology, and B, every single personality test I've done that says, hey man, I think you've got no feelings, you pretty much lack a soul because you're a hyperlogical person. I don't really lack a soul, but every personality test I've done has said that I'm actually a very, very logical person. I don't really have much feeling in terms of personality tests at all. I'm not really a massively over emotional person, but it still gets me. So this leads on to truth number 2 here, and that is people pay to either gain status or to avoid losing status. Status is your social standing on the hierarchy of society, basically. If you have a boss, he is probably higher status in your organization than you. If you are driving a Ford Focus, I've had a Ford Focus, very good car by the way, as somebody pulls up next to me in a Bugatti or a Lamborghini, they probably have higher status in terms of getting money in resource acquisition than I do. So now you understand what status means. Quick story, I was out the other night with one of my friends and we decided, we've not seen each other for ages, very good friend of mine, but we decided to go out for a couple of beers and to, go out and go to a few different bars and that, and cocktail bars and that. Both very shy people, and we like to speak to people when we're out as well. Now, you probably can't tell because I'm sat behind a screen. Some of you probably don't even think I'm even real, but I'm sat behind a screen. My height when I'm fully stood up is around about 6 foot tall to 6'1", depending on whether or not I've compressed my spine with deadlifts that day. And so my point in telling you this, the average male height in the UK is around about 5'9". And so I'm a smidge taller than the average male height. And when I go to the gym, because everyone has footwear in the gym, which basically is for comfort or for working out hard and to not give people imbalances, I can tell that I'm a little bit taller than most people in there. It's not actively on my mind, but like generally I can see that I'm a little bit taller when I speak to people in the gym. But when I went out the other night, I was kind of surprised because every bar that I went to, I was surrounded by people who were my height or towering above me, and I was like, where the hell has this population come from? It's like the average population size increased. Anyway, a little while into the night, we were chatting with this group of people, and one of the groups of people was a guy I actually know from the gym. And this guy's height is probably around about average height, he's about 5'9". But when I was speaking to him, he was a little bit taller than me. And I says, bro, have you grown? What's going on? And he says, laughed it off. I've not grown at all. I'm wearing these shoes which have boosters in them. And he showed me his boots. And basically his boots inside, they'd done this little like hiding thing where you couldn't see they had like a big heel on them. And this heel had increased his height by like 4 inches. And I was like, that is a very, very interesting product. And then he turned around and pointed around the room talking about how common this product is and pointed to like 50% of people in this place I were. He was like, he's wearing these types of shoes, he's wearing them as well. That's a slightly different brand. And he knew this because he looked through all these different types of shoes. And so if you look into any evolutionary psychology books, I highly recommend this book here. It's by Dr. David Buss. Mine's very worn now, but this is a great book if you want to learn about status, you want to learn about evolutionary psychology and how humans work. It'll make you a much better marketer, salesperson if you're interested in psychology. But one of the things in the book is that higher status men are generally taller, and men who are taller are also perceived as higher status as well. And when a person has higher status in society, they often can get more what they want, basically. But that Shoe Booster product there, I would absolutely bet, because it's designed to have people perceive you as being higher status, as each company has probably done hundreds of millions in sales, because it's so important. So we've talked about gaining status, but another important thing that you see in companies is that some companies market towards you not losing status. I consult for this charitable organization at the moment. They do an amazing job. They help people with debt. But one of the things that they found is that it's very hard actually to get people to engage in their service, because getting help in debt opens you up to all sorts of criticism. It opens you up to criticism on your social standing in society. It opens you up to be ridiculed by other people. It makes you, even the admittance of it, feel potentially like a bit of a failure, when it really shouldn't do. I've known plenty of people who have been in debt, and that doesn't change my opinion on them at all. But that's not what they think. So this organization is very big, by the way. It has 1,000 employees. It gets over 50 million in funding per year. What's really interesting is that they frame things to speak to people in a way which says, if you come with us, you won't lose status in society. So they've tested out, and this was under the insight of me, the difference between a funnel with anti-loss status mechanisms in place versus a funnel without that. So one funnel would have your information is completely private. No one will know that you've talked to us unless you physically tell them that you've talked to us. So they've got that anti-status loss mechanism in place. The other one didn't have anything like it. The anti-status loss mechanism, I've just completely made that term up, but seems to roll off the tongue. And they converted 20% higher people. And not only 20% higher people, the split of that from men to women, it was actually more men that converted on that funnel, because men have a tendency to prioritize status a little bit more and try to mitigate the loss of status, and also try to gain status as well. So women were interested in it as well, but also men were very interested in it. And so when you can understand that status actually forms a part of your marketing, is a person going to lose status here? Are they going to gain status with this product? It actually is a very important thing, and can help you as a brand actually grow. And I've seen it so many times. If you do it correctly, there's wrong ways to do it and there's right ways to do it. Okay, so truth number 3, we have a tendency to outsource our thinking to the crowd. So monkey see, monkey do. This is known as group consensus in psychology. So let's just say you are in the market for a Hoover. And when you go to get a Hoover, you go to Amazon to buy a Hoover. And rather than coming to Amazon with all the specific specs that you actually want from a Hoover, what you will actually do is look at what the most popular selling item is on Amazon. And the most popular selling item, you're going to click into it, you're going to read the thousands of reviews. Well, you won't read all 1,000 of them, but you might click and read through a few of them. And rather than having to make all the decisions yourself, you will outsource your thinking to the group there, the tribe, and you will assume that the tribe has correctly informed you, and you'll probably buy that Hoover. Now, interesting thing is that group consensus evolved from, tribal times, going back to evolutionary psychology. If your tribe are all running that way, and you decide that you're going to run that way with them as well, you're probably making a wise decision, because there could be a predator coming from the other way. So you've probably made the right decision there, and therefore you have ended up living, all because you relied on the thinking and the actions of the group. So group consensus is generally baked into us from an evolutionary psychology level. Now, there's something really interesting about this, because marketers over time have learned this. And what they have a tendency to do is they try and do group consensus in the form of social proof, and they try and do it in a fake way. So you will see this on lots of different YouTube accounts with lots of different gurus, and they'll all have fake engagement comments. Like, I truly believe at this stage that most of, if not all of the make money online gurus all use fake engagement. Like, that's how rife this is. But there's a downside to doing this. You know, I'm a marketer as well. I've got no problem getting your family member, your employees, your friends to comment on a post or to comment on a YouTube video or whatnot, and just to encourage other people to do it. But what I don't like is where people do hundreds and hundreds of comments just trying to manage their brand. So really interesting, because this group consensus can sometimes lead us in the wrong ways, and it can have massive negative impacts for us as well. So I used to run a business on LinkedIn. And when I used to run this business on LinkedIn, I used to essentially teach companies how to correctly generate leads from LinkedIn. So it could be how to correctly DM people, when to send people are lacking trust in you, what to do when a prospect in your messenger is uncertain, how to funnel people through your profile, how to do all these different types of things. And I used to do this pretty well, and it was pretty good. And I would give these instructions to these various different companies along with training videos and training programs, and they would then have their whole sales teams go and do these techniques. And it would, you know, work really well for them. Now, really, really interesting is that there was a stage during when the lockdowns first initially happened, a load of people lost their jobs. And because a load of people lost their jobs, they decided to pursue entrepreneurship. So there was this boom in entrepreneurship in 2020. And when this boom happened, a lot of people just moved into my industry who had no previous experience in generating leads or anything like this. So bearing in mind, I'd worked for years before moving into this lead gen industry, getting the techniques and tactics to grow my own business before I started teaching it. But when 2020 happened and loads of people moved online, you would see loads of people sign up for a LinkedIn profile. Within 2 weeks, they would create some sort of LinkedIn post, have floods of fake engagement go to it. This post would then go viral. And then from the virality of this post, these guys would then set up a business and actually start teaching other people how to, you know, generate leads on LinkedIn, how to be viral on LinkedIn, all these sorts of things. And as a knock-on result of this, lots of business owners started buying these programs and getting really bad results, because what happened was the person had just done it through luck. The person who was selling the service had just done it through complete luck. They didn't really have much experience in it. And so the business owners they were selling to got really, really bad results. And as a result of that, it became very, very tough to start to sell to people, because I was starting to come across people who'd been burnt 5, 6, 7 times by various different people, and they were completely shut down to buying any sort of other LinkedIn service. They'd just written the whole thing off as though it doesn't work. Not that, you know, maybe these people who taught me actually weren't very good. But you do that to enough clients where you start to not get them results and people start to talk, and your business ends up being destroyed. And then you end up getting exposed for using all sorts of shady tactics like fake engagement, bot comments and things like this. And as a result of this, your business fails. But basically my point on this is that group consensus in this scenario actually worked against the people, because they faked group consensus. They actually got exposed and lost more trust than they would if they didn't do any of those things. So group consensus, very, very powerful, absolute rocket fuel. I've seen it again and again and again, but I've also seen it where people use it incorrectly and it completely backfires and like takes down, rather than gaining an extra 20% of sales, they actually reduce their sales by 30%. It's absolute madness when group consensus goes wrong. So as a recap to this video, people do make emotional decisions and then justify it with logic afterwards. But remember to actually use this knowledge rather than just thinking about it and then going with the logic route anyway when you are starting to deal with clients or customers or traffic. Second as well, you know, people pay for status. They also pay for not losing status. Third as well, group consensus is very powerful, but like a fire, it can spread and get out of control if you don't know what you're doing. So if you enjoyed a video like this with little stories in it, please let me know. I'll be able to see from the watch time. I think you guys like things like this. So take it easy. Leave me a comment if you have experienced something similar or have a story to share as well. And take it easy, guys. See you in the next video.